On a gloomy, overcast morning, my body stubbornly resisted waking up. My eyes felt glued shut, my legs cocooned in the warmth of the blanket. Only the grating sound of my iPhone alarm managed to stir my brain and drag me out of bed. Goosebumps prickled my skin as I stood up, though it wasn't particularly cold in the apartment. Another workday awaited me. The thought was unbearable. Outside, darkness still lingered, and the pristine snow from yesterday had melted into a grimy slush. The scene outside felt more like the dead of night than early morning. Yet the ticking wall clock and my still blaring alarm clock insisted otherwise. I wrapped the blanket around me and shuffled into the kitchen, desperate for warmth and tea. While the kettle boiled, I forced myself to the bathroom. A bracing shower jolted me awake, washing away the remnants of sleep. A cup of hot tea and a couple of sandwiches brought some life back into me. Strangely, despite the above-freezing temperatures, the apartment felt unnervingly cold. Probably the wind, I reasoned. The monotony of another long day loomed over me. More than ever, I craved a change, an escape from this dull, gray cycle of existence. For once, I wanted to live, not just survive. By now, the tea had cooled and the sun had started to rise, adding a touch of color to the dreary world outside. Checking the time, I realized I was running late and hurried to get ready. Stepping outside, I retraced my usual route, past sleepy children trudging to school, the crowded, hurried bus with its familiar discomforts. But that morning felt off. A strange sensation took root in me, a whisper of unease urging me to stay home. It lingered as I left my building, an almost tangible warning from some deep corner of my mind. But practicality drowned it out. Work was waiting, and so was my boss's inevitable scolding if I showed up late. I moved mechanically through the slushy streets, avoiding puddles as I trudged toward the bus stop. Strangers' glances felt unusually piercing. Do I look odd? Is something wrong with me? I wondered, clueless about the nightmare awaiting me. My job was nothing remarkable. A consultant at a construction hypermarket. It paid decently, considering our small town. The biggest hassle was the commute, which involved crossing the entire city on a perpetually overcrowded bus. By 8 a.m., the large blue building of the hypermarket and its nearly empty parking lot came into view. I stepped off the bus, the hiss of its doors a discordant sound. I entered through the back entrance, heading into the storage room, a space typically chaotic with scattered tools, shelves of goods, and construction materials. But this time, everything was different. The layout was familiar, yet the clutter was gone. The room was eerily pristine, with bright yellow wallpaper that stung my eyes and a foul, damp odor that clung to the air. Confused, I wandered deeper into what should have been the same storage room. To my shock, it wasn't. Beyond it lay another room that hadn't been there before. Yesterday, a solid wall had stood in its place. Panic crept in as I turned to retrace my steps. The door I'd entered through was gone. Instead, endless corridors stretched before me, their walls adorned with the same garish, peeling wallpaper. My feet sank into damp carpet, the squelching sound echoing ominously with every step. Where am I? What is happening? I murmured, my voice trembling. I pressed my hand against the wall, its dampness and texture confirming the surreal nightmare was real. The stench of rot grew stronger as I moved, and the flickering fluorescent lights above added to the oppressive atmosphere. Hours passed as I wandered through a maze of nonsensical rooms, each identical in their emptiness and monotony. The carpet squished beneath my feet, and the yellowed wallpaper seemed to mock my every attempt at understanding. I marked a wall to test my theory, only to find the layout shifting behind me. My mark appeared in a completely different corridor minutes later. Fatigue overtook me. The sandwiches I had packed were no solace, and my legs screamed in protest. Desperation settled in as I realized there was no exit, no logic, no end. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of wandering, I slumped to the ground, clutching my head in despair. The yellow walls bore silent witness as I drifted into an uneasy sleep, trapped in this endless labyrinth of madness. The door slammed behind me with a resounding thud, reverberating through the silence. My chest heaved as I leaned against the cold, damp surface, every fiber of my being trembling with exhaustion and terror. The muffled sounds of scraping and groaning on the other side told me that the creature hadn't given up. It lingered, probing, testing the barriers between us. The room I had entered was no sanctuary. The air was thick with decay, and the walls were coated with a slimy, greenish mold. A faint, flickering light from a cracked bulb overhead cast grotesque shadows that seemed to writhe and shift, as if alive. I scanned the space desperately, searching for something, anything that could be used to secure the door or defend myself. There was nothing. The metallic taste of fear filled my mouth as I backed away, never taking my eyes off the door. A faint, rhythmic pounding began, and I realized the creature was now attempting to force its way in. Each blow made the door groan ominously, its hinges protesting under the strain. Panic surged anew, and I stumbled further into the room. My foot struck something solid, and I nearly toppled over. It was a rusted metal pipe, part of the debris strewn across the floor. I picked it up, its weight comforting despite its crude appearance. If the creature broke through, at least I wouldn't go down without a fight. The pounding stopped. An eerie silence fell, broken only by the sound of my ragged breathing. I froze, straining to hear any hint of movement. Had it given up, or was it simply waiting for me to let my guard down? A new sound reached my ears, a faint scraping, this time from above. My eyes darted to the ceiling, and my heart plummeted. A dark, shapeless mass was crawling along the wall, its many limbs moving with a grotesque fluidity. Its glowing eyes fixed on me, and that same twisted smile spread across its face. I ran. It didn't matter where, just away from that thing. The pipe clattered to the ground as I bolted toward the far corner of the room, where a small, rusted hatch lay half-concealed beneath a pile of debris. With a strength born of desperation, I heaved the hatch open and plunged into the darkness below. I landed awkwardly, the impact jarring my already weary body. The hatch slammed shut above me, cutting off the faint light from the room above. I was plunged into pitch blackness, the air here even heavier and more putrid than before. For a moment, I lay still, trying to catch my breath and listening intently for any signs of pursuit. Nothing. The silence was deafening, but it was a relief. Slowly, I fumbled for my phone, praying against hope that it might turn on one last time. The screen flickered weakly, casting a dim glow that revealed a narrow tunnel stretching out before me. It was clear that this place had no end to its horrors, but staying in one spot wasn't an option. Clutching the faint hope of escape, I began to crawl, the damp earth beneath me squelching with every movement. The walls of the tunnel seemed to close in around me, their surfaces lined with roots that writhed as if alive. The occasional drip of water echoed ominously, each sound amplifying the oppressive silence. As I inched forward, a thought gnawed at the edges of my mind. This place wasn't just a physical anomaly. It was alive. It wanted me here, feeding on my fear and despair. The entities weren't just monsters. They were part of it, extensions of its will. I stopped, my heart racing as a faint sound reached my ears. It was distant but unmistakable, the same laughter that had haunted me earlier. My body froze and I stared into the darkness ahead, dread pooling in my stomach. Whatever lay ahead, I couldn't turn back. Summoning every ounce of resolve, I continued forward into the unknown. The protagonist's transition from an isolated, surreal nightmare to a semblance of community creates a juxtaposition that feels both comforting and foreboding. The appearance of other people and their makeshift society offers a new dimension to the narrative, a sense of belonging tempered by the harsh reality of their situation. The backstage concept, with its inexplicable self-restocking stores and strange occurrences, is captivating. It paints this alternate reality as more than a mere survival horror. It's a layered, bizarre ecosystem with its own rules and rhythms. Yet the story leaves the reader with lingering unease. Is this truly a safe haven, or just another layer of the anomaly? The references to bandits and the presence of armed factions hint at further dangers, both from the environment and the people themselves. It's a compelling end, or perhaps a beginning, to a dark and enigmatic journey.